Welcome. My name is John Handel, and this is the second in a series of presentations on the executive project leadership architecture. So the executive question is, why do technically successful projects sometimes fail to produce lasting organizational success? And so the project was very successful. It met all the requirements. It satisfied the business case, and the customer was happy. But then 2 or 3 years down the road, they find that the project has not yielded its return on investment. And so therefore, it must be the project's fault. And that's just not the case sometimes. Uh, and the reason is the project success is only the beginning of organizational success. So there's other operations have to be successful, and executive management has to be successful to reap the benefits of the project. So if those two are not successful, then no matter how good the project was, it won't be successful. So why must project leadership evolve? Because in today's projects no longer implement isolated technologies. They transform entire enterprises, operating in an environment of continuous technological, organizational, and competitive change. So in the 20th century, you might have had individual projects like a payroll system, a billing application, etc. And in today's environment, with digital technologies, you have artificial intelligence influencing operational decisions. Cloud platforms are reshaping enterprise architecture. Cybersecurity is a concern for all board level companies, and the customer expectations evolve continuously. So project leadership can no longer focus exclusively on delivering technical solutions. It increasingly drives organizational transformation, and that requires executive leadership. So I began looking at this with the MORE mindset, and PMI emphasizes that projects create value by enabling organizational change, and that's a true statement. But project alone does not ensure that you're going to achieve value. So let's look at the MORE mindset. It says manage perceptions, own project success, relentlessly reassess, and expand your perspective. And the executive project leadership architecture extends this thinking, showing that these behaviors contribute to long-term enterprise value after project delivery. So again, the project can provide some value, but the realization of that value is only achievable if operations and executive management are successful. So imagine this scenario. Your organization has approved a 5-year plan, and during the second year, dramatic changes in network operations occur. The customer expectations evolve, new cybersecurity regulations are introduced, and a competitor launches a disruptive cloud native service that your company has to respond to just because the competition is doing that, and so you have to address that situation. So option A, continue executing the original plan because, well, it's on schedule, so let's keep going. So option B would reassess assumptions, engage stakeholders, and modify the program to preserve long-term strategic value. So discuss with your table, and we'll pick this up on the other side, but I think you'll find that option B is where you're at today. In the past, you may trudge along and do option A, and just because that's the plan, and then we're sticking to it. But today, you have to be adapt to your environment more rapidly than in the past. So if the project was successful, why didn't the organization achieve expected results? And so this is the key to this architecture. Because project success, operational success, and enterprise success are related, but they are not the same. Each requires a different leadership responsibility and different measures of success. So this is a key to this architecture, is that project success, operational success, and enterprise success are related, but they're not the same. And you can have success in one area and the other two areas will prevent you from having success in the end, achieving enterprise value. So the successful project is not the same as organizational success. Like the common assumption, completing a successful project automatically produces organizational success. And that was a view held by many people, that if you were successful with the project, then it automatically meant that the company was going to make money. There's no question about it. But projects may satisfy the scope, the schedule, budget, quality, customer acceptance, and the organization still struggles to achieve the expected benefits. And this is not a project failure. Organizational success depends on leadership responsibilities that extend beyond project delivery, clarified by distinguishing project, operational, and enterprise success. So let's look at 3 levels of organizational success. The first level is the project success. You meet all your criteria for validation, acceptance, transition. Everything was successful. You satisfied the business case. You demonstrated that you could generate the increased capacity or whatever it is that was required in the business case, and you did that successfully under representing a real load live environment. And so everything was great. But then it depends on operational success. Is the workforce properly trained? Do they have process performance? Are they following the processes in place that will allow you to take advantage of the project benefits and the new capabilities? So if you have all success at that area, the top level is enterprise success and executive leadership. So executive leadership is focusing on strategic objectives, financial performance, market position, innovation, and resilience. And if all 3 of these are successful, that will lead to enterprise value in the long run, and you'll achieve your return on investment. But you could have a successful project and a poor workforce, and you're going to struggle to meet return on investment. Or if these 2 are good and upper management is not strategically have their objectives in line, in other words, they've got a set of objectives up here, but this project that they authorized does not fit into those strategic objectives. And no matter how good they are down here, they're doing something different at the executive level. So a sports analogy sometimes helps clear this up. And so let's look at a Major League Baseball team. And the project manager would be equivalent to the baseball manager. And the operations people, that would be the ball players, the team. And the executive level, enterprise success level, that's the front office. And the front office would have responsibility for the strategic objectives, the market position, etc. So say the project manager, he gets his experience from being a successful ball player over many years of playing ball. He knows how the game is played, and after a successful career, sometimes the baseball player will advance to be a project manager and be able to lead the team and get the best out of the players because he knows how to play the game, and he's been around a long time and knows how the game should be played and how to deal with certain situations within a game. But you have a successful project manager, and then you have a team, but the team is not competent. They can't hit, they make errors, and they're losing a lot of ball games. So no matter how good the project manager is, the team is not going to be successful. But suppose that now you got a manager and he's got a good team and they're winning a lot of ball games, but the executive level up here, they're supposed to be handling the business side of this. And maybe they market position, maybe they didn't negotiate radio and TV rights and they made a bad contract, or and they're not achieving the revenue that they need to pay for everything. And so they're financially struggling at the executive level, even though the team and the manager are great. Okay. And so some people will say that these positions are interchangeable. And with this example in a baseball team, and you can look at the executive level and the people that are running the front office, and you'll never see the front office come down and be a project manager or manage the baseball team. It just doesn't happen. They don't have the right skill set to be a baseball manager, but they've got the skill set to run the business. So they're good at running the business, but you'll never see them come down here and lead the project or lead the team. And they definitely won't come out of the top office and go into operations because they don't have the skill set to be a player or to be in operations to do the day-to-day activities. That's just not their thing. They don't have that skill set. They've got the administrative skill set up here and the management skill set to run the business, but not to do tasks at the operational level. So the project manager, if he wins the World Series, you'll never see the next year the project manager going up to run the entire organization. It just doesn't happen. The baseball manager has a skill set that allows him to be really good and get the most out of the team and win the World Series, but he hasn't the skill set to run the entire business. It's a different skill set. So project manager may get hired by another team that wants to win the World Series, but no one will hire him to be in the front office to run the organization. And the same way with the ball players, after a successful career in baseball, you don't see them retire and go to the front office, except if they're maybe public relations type of person at the front office. But to run the business, very seldom do you see a player go up and start being the executive in the business office. So some people will say, well, that's fine. Mega projects have distinct characteristics where the executive runs the company, the operations team, they have a well-tuned team and they have special skill sets. So they're performing at a high level at the operations level. And then you have well-trained project managers, and you say, okay, each one of those has a skill set and they fit in their place and they're not interchangeable. But on small projects, sometimes people think that these two are interchangeable, operations and project success. And that's where you sometimes get into trouble is sometimes they'll take somebody out of operations and make them the project manager for a small project of say 5 to 10 people or something, and they're going to develop some little addition to the operations and maybe a little application or something like that. But the person that comes out of operations isn't necessarily a trained project manager, but they know how to do their operational work, and they come down here and they lead this team, but they may not have any processes in place because it's a small operation. And so on one project, you may get somebody out of operations that's very good at leading a team. And the next project, you might get someone else, and due to the fact that you don't have any processes, it's all ad hoc. So one person does it one way, the next project, somebody does it a different way, and it's very difficult to predict results. And that's why some organizations at the executive level recognize the advantage of having a project management office, a PMO. So if you have a PMO, you're going to have processes in place, and that gives some idea of the skill set that's required to be the project manager down here. And so they'll look for people in operations that can lead the project, and they follow the same set of procedures, so they have somewhat repeatable performance out of the various projects. And that'd be the best way to do it. However, sometimes when you have a project manager down here, they end up going back to operations, and when the project is complete, they're accepting their own project. So there's a lot of tendency to say, well, I tested this, it must be good, I accept it. But the problem is that maybe they tested the features, but did they do it under realistic conditions? And that's the part that's hard on the small projects. They usually don't have the lab environment to produce a realistic load on the system to simulate their new feature working in a live environment. And if you're just testing the new feature in an idle system, then you're basically wasting your time, because it always works in an idle system. It's when it's under load that you run into problems, when some other feature that you have within your network interferes with your application. So generating that load is sometimes difficult. And maybe the load has nothing to do with the area that the application is in. So you can stress the application and say that it's supposed to do 200 things an hour, and you test it and it can do 300 things an hour. And you say, wow, this is great, we'll go with this. And then you find out when it's in service that it can only do 10 or 15 an hour. So the load is the difference. I had one application where they said they could do 400 recent changes an hour, and they could meet that no problem. We guaranteed 400. They could do more than 400. They says, we're home free. That's not a problem. But downtown Chicago, in a large telephone office in the Loop, they could only do one per hour during busy hour. And the database people said, oh, that's a problem. They got something wrong in their system. There's some other problem with that switch that's causing the problem, because we can do 400 an hour. And the problem was they were doing their 400 in an idle system in the database lab. And when they took their database over to the call processing lab and tried to do 400 recent changes per hour in a loaded telephone lab with the live traffic or simulated live traffic, they found the problem that there was no time left for the recent change messages, and they had to rearrange the priority for the messages to at least allow a reasonable number of recent changes to be done during busy hour. So those are some of the problems that you can get into. And you want to be careful if you're working at this level. Things can get rather unpredictable as a result. So one project may be great, the next project would be poor, and it requires executive leadership to make sure that there's some processes in place, if you're doing this internally, that everybody understands their role when they're down here doing a project management position as opposed to leadership. And another thing is, some people hire a project manager. They hire a contract person to come in and run the project, and they use operational people, But then when the project is done, the person with all the expertise on what that project was doing, they leave, and the operational people, they're left, they worked on it, and maybe they learned something, maybe they didn't learn something. But you need to have a coordinated effort. And I'll show how we'll have a integrated operations plan where you integrate operations with the project, and then the team members are working on the project, and they come back and work on operations after the project's over. And if they can get formal training during this time, it's even a better success, and you can have enhanced enterprise value at that point with the project. So Bell Labs leadership lesson: the carrier grade engineering has always treated technical completion as a milestone, not the conclusion of organizational responsibility. The strongest organizations saw transition as the beginning of a sustained operational excellence. And the projects create capability, operations sustain capability, and executive leadership converts that capability into enterprise value. And according to Joseph Juran, without a standard, there's no logical basis for making a decision or taking action. And the 3 levels of success provides executive with that standard, a disciplined basis for assigning leadership accountability. So consider your largest completed project. When leadership called it success, which lens did they actually apply? Did they look at it from a project performance? Did they look at it from operational performance or business performance? Or were they quiet, or all 3 quietly assumed to be one and the same? And what did that assumption ultimately cost the organization? So discuss that and on your table, and we'll pick that up on the other side. And this brings us to the end of the second presentation on the executive project leadership architecture. And we'll see how the 4 behaviors don't end at delivery, and the executive project leadership architecture extends each one into the connected leadership. So thank you for listening, and have a great day, and we hope to see you at the next session.